Animated visibility is a composable in Jetpack Compose that allows us to create animations in a simple way. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to use animated visibility to add motion to your Compose UIs. I head over to Android Studio and create a new project. Empty Compose activity and then next. In the project name section, I enter a name, for example, Compose, and it's about animated visibility, or let's call it animated visibility motion. And then the package name is good and the save location is fine. Language is Kotlin and minimum SDK is 21. It's fine. I press finish and wait for the project to be created. Alright, my project is ready. It's created. The first thing that you will need to do is removing the default composables. Of course, this is my preference. You can leave them alone. And I'm also removing the content added inside my theme, Animated Visibility Motion theme, because I'm supposed to add my own content that will show the animation, and I will design in this lesson. And then I create a composable by typing comp and then pressing enter, and then I name it Animated Visibility Sample, and inside it I'm going to create the Animated Visibility composable. I'm going to use it. Note that you will need to use this type of motion and this type of animation, I mean animated visibility, when you are supposed to show some content or make it disappear at some point on your screen. So for example, you have some content that is supposed to appear on the screen or disappear, and this is a good time to use this composable animated visibility. And it works by receiving an initial state that says whether it is visible or invisible. And when you change that state, that visible state, the animation changes, and the Jetpack Compose animation library creates an appropriate and suitable animation to show the user that transition in an animated way. Let me show you how this works. Animated visibility. As you can see, it's from the androidx.compose.animation package. I press enter, and as you can see, it receives a visible state. And I'm going to define this visible state as a state variable this way. Val, I'm going to create two variables, one for the Boolean variable that represents this value, and also the other that is supposed to be a lambda and responsible for setting new values to that variable. So checked and unchecked change. You will soon see why I chose checked and unchecked change as the name of these variables. And I use remember to utilize Jetpack Compose's composable memory, and then mutable state of. I import mutable state of, and I give it an initial value of false. And for the checked and unchecked change, I'm going to create I'm going to actually use a checkbox from the material library that allows the user to select the animation to be visible or invisible at any time. So for that, I'm going to add a checkbox here, checkbox, and as you can see, the checkbox, after I import it, has one variable, one parameter called checked that receives its state, and for its state I pass in checked. And this checked, as you can see, has an initial value of false, which means the checkbox will be unselected at first. And it also has a lambda parameter called unchecked change that sets new values to this parameter. So for that, I already have defined a variable. I have defined a lambda called unchecked change using the destructuring assignment mechanism from the Kotlin language, and I use it here, unchecked change. All right, and in order to have a better layout to show these things, the checkbox and the animated visibility that will contain our animated content, I'm going to put them inside a column. So I select the whole area and then press Alt and Enter, and then surround with widget, and then surround with column. So now my column is ready, and I'm going to put the checkbox also aligned with a text box inside a row, and you will see why it is that way. Surround with widget, I put it inside a row aligned with text, and the text is show content. And as you can see, checkbox and then the show content. To give it a good preview, I'm going to add the preview annotation to my composable here, and after that it will start to build the preview and show it to us once we select the split view. And inside the animated visibility, I will pass in the initial value for visible, and for that I have checked, because the user will be able to show the content, the animated content, using the checkbox that we have provided to them. So I'm going to use checked here. Checked. And then we have a lambda that decides what content to show or hide based on this visible parameter that is passed to animated visibility. So as you can see, we have several forms of this composable, and the type that we will use is supposed to be, as you can see from this list of parameters, this list of overrides for this composable, the second form, visible, and then the content. But we have an error here. I press Alt and Return on the error to see why it is that way. And as you can see, it says add opt-in experimental animation API class annotation to animated visibility sample. Because animated visibility is an experimental animation API, we have to add one of these two annotations to our composable for it in order for our composable to work. So add opt-in experimental animation API class, and now I have added it. And in addition to adding it, we also need to make sure that we have compiler argument xopt Kotlin requires opt-in to our build.gradle file. So I go to my build.gradle file from the app module, and in the section for Kotlin options, I'm going to use free compiler options. If I'm not wrong, free compiler options, and then a list that contains the list of the compiler arguments. Here we are passing this argument Kotlin.requires opt-in. I press sync now and wait for it to finish syncing and applying that change. Free compiler args, sorry, this should be free compiler args. This has to be that. And now the sync is successful. I return back, and here I have my composable animated visibility sample, and the opt-in should do no complaint to us. And it is not yet updated, but we proceed with our work. Inside the animated visibility, I'm going to create my animating content, and for that I'm going to create a box. A box that has a size of modifier.size, something like 400 depth. For the size, I import modifier and the depth. Come on. And also the size modifier, I import it. And now that I have the box, I'm going to add inside it an image. I import image from the foundation package, and the first parameter is painter resource. I use painter resource to access a drawable that I will have in my drawable directory. So I go to my pictures directory to access that picture that I will use. I have a picture here. I will use it like a profile picture. Control C, copy, and back to Android Studio and project resource section. I paste it in the drawable directory. Control V or right click and paste. I put it in the drawable folder and I call it profile, and I use it for the drawable ID value profile. And the next parameter is content description. For that I use profile. I don't need the left part, so I close the pane, and then I also minimize a little bit the right panel for the preview. I don't need that much. And let's have the image, and after that let's also have our text. I'm gonna have a text here that, for example, compose, Jetpack compose is awesome. Let's use a font size like 30 dip, 30 sp. Let's import sp, and also font style or font weight dot bold. And to make it more discernible, I'm also going to use a color of white for it. Color dot white. Also, we should add some padding to our column, as well as size, fill max size for the column, and some padding like 16 depth, and some shadow like 2 depth. Import shadow. We have the padding shadow for the column and some padding for the inner elements like our checkbox. So I'm gonna do that by adding the padding to row padding. I use 16 depth for it, for the row, as well as for the animated visibility. So modifier dot padding 16 depth. All right, we'll then refresh. Hopefully it will solve the issue. I suspect that there's also another problem with our project that needs to be fixed before we will be able to see the preview, and that's something to deal with the compiler version, the Kotlin version that we are using. So let's check it out. As you can see, that's true, and this version of Compose that we are using, RC01 of the Compose compiler, requires Kotlin version 1.5.10, but it appears that we are using 1.4.32. So let's update that and fix it. Build.gradle in the project level. Let's change the version of Kotlin to 1.5.10 and sync the project. Most probably the issue will be gone. And we have added the padding to our animated visibility. Actually, let's add it to our box that is inside the animated visibility. Like that. And for the image, I'm going to add a clipping using the clip modifier. So modifier dot clip with a rounded corner shape that is typical of profile pictures. I personally like that style of pictures, rounded corners. Looks like clip isn't imported yet. For rounded corner shape, I apply a size, for example 8 depth. It will be good. And also let's use a content scale for our pictures, for our picture. Okay, rounded corner shape. So here's the end of our modifiers, the clip modifier, and after that I can add the other parameter, which is content scale. For content scale, I use crop. That will center my picture in a nice way in the picture area. Let's see if we finally will be able to see our preview. I have opted in to experimental animation APIs, but still Android Studio shows some notice here. This class can only be used with the compiler argument that, but we have already added that to our build.gradle file. The preview is being generated. Alright, as you can see, the preview is here, and looks like we don't have much to see for now because the initial value of the checked variable is false unless we change it to true, and in that case, yes, we will see some text and we will see some preview of the UI that we have designed here. So each time that the user selects this option, this checkbox, this content here containing our profile picture and the text will be animated in, will be faded in and shown to the user in an animated nice way. And if the user, on the other hand, if the user deselects that checkbox, the content will be faded out and will disappear from the screen in an animated nice way. So to see that in action, let's actually call animated visibility sample composable inside our theme, like that. Animated visibility sample. Before we do that, let's make sure that we have done everything we needed to have a nice acceptable UI here. Something I can do about the text, I can center the text, inside the box. I can do that using the using modifier. If I haven't already used the modifier for text, I can add that parameter modifier dot align and alignment dot center. I import alignment from the UI package, and now we have alignment.center as the alignment, build and refresh. And for the text and for the image as well, but the image I can use fill max size to make the image fill the whole available space inside our box. So I resort to this modifier parameter like that, rounded corner shape, this was the clip, and then after clip I use fill max size to fill the whole space available inside its parent, which is the box. Build and refresh. Alright, not bad. Actually, let's see if I can put the text below the image using the alignment button. It is not acceptable in this scope. Its type is alignment, but we have used alignment.vertical, which is not acceptable. Okay, that's not bad for now, but at least let's make our text align in the center using the text composables text align parameter. Text align equals text align dot center. Okay, and actually I have a way of putting the text in the bottom section of our box, and that is by using the content alignment parameter of the box composable. So I have the box here, and after the list of its existing parameters, I can use content alignment. Sorry, it is for the image. I'm going to deal with the box parameters. So content alignment equals alignment dot center, bottom center. Hopefully this will be acceptable here. Yes, bottom center is acceptable here. Let's refresh our UI preview to see if we have what we need and what we wish for. Not exactly that. Actually, it's not bottom center. Okay, let's leave it for now. Let's run the application, because the more important thing is what we are supposed to see on our virtual device. I press the run button and wait for the application to be launched on my emulator, Pixel 4 API 27 emulator. The emulator is launching, the application is being installed. Alright, as you can see, by default the content inside AnimatedVisibility is being shown, and that's because we are checking the checkbox by default by setting the initial value of checked to true. So I uncheck the checkbox, and as you can see, the UI is faded out. Of course, it was not that obvious, and probably it also has to do something with the performance of the machine on which I'm recording this video. So I select it again. You can see that it's animated in, and then unselect, it's faded out, it's sliding in, sliding out, sliding in, sliding out. Nice. So you can see that by default AnimatedVisibility has nice animation for making the content that is supposed to appear display in an animated way in your application. And also it has good mechanism and good default animations for making it disappear and exiting the scene. But that's not all about animated visibility. Animated visibility is very customizable, and you have a lot of options for customizing the animation that will be used and the animation behavior that will be used for animating your content inside animated visibility. In the next part, I will talk about customizing the animation that is used in animated visibility and inside animated visibility.